Hi everyone, welcome back to another video of Learning Swift UI with me. So hope you liked the last video and learned how to link to a detail view with a navigation link. And in order to continue our learning, and I will explain the basic about MVC, MVVM, and dependency injection in this video. So this video is going to be without any programming, but it is very important for you to understand the basics. And I highly recommend that you watch this video until the very end. So before we start, please make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss any future videos, and hit the like button so more people can watch and learn how to code in Swift UI. So let's begin. So as you can see, MVC, the first thing we're going to talk about is MVC. MVC actually stands for the Model View Controller, which is a software design pattern that separates an application into three interconnected components. So first one is model. The model component represents the data and the business logic of the application. And here is a code snippet in Swift for a simple model. Next one is view. So the view component is responsible for presenting the data to the user and receiving user input. So here's a code snippet in the Swift as well. Next one is controller. So the controller component acts as an intermediary between the model and the view components. It receives user input from the view and then updates the model accordingly, and then updates the view to reflect the changes in the model. So here is a code example of that as well. So overall, you can pause the video or you can go back to take a look at previous two example, model and a view. So basically, we put them all together. All those code, actually, the controller is responsible for coordinating the actions between the model and the view. When a controller receives user input, it actually updates the model accordingly, and then updates the view to reflect the changes in the model. So if you have any questions, please feel free to comment down below and let me know. I will try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. So let's continue to MVVM. So MVVM actually stands for the Model-View-ViewModel, which is a software design pattern that separates an application into three interconnected components. It's almost the same as MVC, but slightly different. So the first one is actually the model. The model component represents the data and the business logic of the application. Here's the code in Swift. So far, it's almost the same as MVC. Next one is a view. So the view component is responsible for presenting the data to the user and receiving user input. Here's a code example in Swift. It's also almost the same as, here is actually almost the same as MVC, this view. The view purpose is pretty simple. It's just showing what the user need to see. But under the hood, there are slightly different. As you can see, there's a view model in this case. So let's continue. So the view model. The view model component acts as an intermediary between the model and the view components. It holds a reference to the model and provides a data and commands to the view. So if you combine all the code together, basically, the view model provides a representation of the model that is optimized for presentation to the view. That's why here we're using a lot of model stuff and handling the logic, how the data will be manipulated. And then basically when the view receives the user input, it passes that input to the view model, as you can see from here. So which updates the model accordingly afterwards. You can see right here, code to get user input. So whenever user input something, we will make it update changes through the view model to update the data model. Eventually, we can eventually change the name or age and show the actual data. So the view model then updates the view to reflect the changes in the model. This separation of a responsibility helps to keep the view code simple and easier to maintain. So as it does not need to concern with the business logic or the data storage. The next one is going to be dependency injection. So the dependency injection is actually a software design pattern that allows you to manage the dependencies of your components in a flexible and a decoupled way. It's almost the same as that we talked about the decoupling view. The concept behind is almost similar. So the dependency injection actually helps to make your code more modular and easier to maintain. So in the dependency injection, a component's dependencies are actually passed to it as a parameters, rather than being hard-coded or created internally. So this makes it easier to swap out dependencies with other implementations, or to substitute mock dependencies for testing purpose. So here is actually a dependency injection demo. You can actually see that we have a protocol called the data store that has a function. And we have two classes. One is a real data store that inherits this protocol. So we have to implementing. So basically, the protocol acts as a blueprint. Then whoever take on the blueprint have to implement the actual code or the logic for that function. So then whoever want to use this particular function called get a data, they'll just have to create a variable in a component class called data store. That's a type of the protocol. So then we can actually interchange whichever one we want. We can use either the real data store or the mock data store, because those two classes are actually the same type, the data store and data store. The only difference is actually whenever you implement the functions, the logic inside of the get data function, you can actually make a huge difference there. You can make, for example, if you are actually making a API call or trying to reach to a internet server for particular data, but also at the same time you want to test out something, you can actually writing a code, actual URL session code right here. Then for the mock data store, you can actually potentially pretending you are making an API call to the server, and you can actually create what kind of server response you want for the mock data store. So in that way, you can actually do a proper unit test for this class component, this get data function right here. So hopefully that's easy to understand. If not, feel free to comment down below and let me know. But basically, in this code here, the component class depends on the data store to provide it with the data. However, the implementation of the data store is not hard-coded into the component. Instead, the data store is passed as a parameter to the component's initializer. Then this actually allows us to easily switch between the real data store and the mock data store without changing the component code. So by using the dependency injection, we can actually make our code more flexible and easier to maintain. And as we can change or replace components without affecting the rest of the code. So here are all the basics of MVC and MVVM and dependency injection. Feel free to rewatch or pause to think a bit more on these topics here, because they will come real handy in your programming career. And we will continue the actual coding in the next video, and hope you enjoyed this video. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.